Dad told me. Either use the guest room or move out. After my sister and her husband showed up to live there. Better if you're out by tomorrow, my sister said brightly. I moved out. A week later she panicked, yelling. She's lying? Mom, tell me she's lying. My name is Laura and I'm 24 years old. And this whole mess really kicked off about 3 months ago when my picture-perfect older sister, Kayla, basically detonated my life without so much as a heads up. I'd been living at home since graduating college 2 years earlier, mostly because my student loans were strangling me, and my junior graphic design job barely covered my car payment and insurance. Dad had told me I could stay as long as I needed while I got my finances under control, and honestly the setup worked great. I had the entire second floor to myself, my old childhood room plus the old playroom, which I'd turned into a little home office. Mom loved having me around too. We cooked together on weekends, and I helped Dad with the yard whenever he needed an extra set of hands. It felt steady, comfortable, and most importantly, it was the first time I was actually chipping away at my debt instead of drowning in it. Kayla, at 27, had always been the golden child. She was valedictorian in high school, snagged a full ride to Duke, and married Ethan, a corporate lawyer who earned an insane amount of money. They lived in a gorgeous downtown condo that probably cost more than our parents' whole house. Every Sunday she'd call to flaunt her newest promotion or the fancy vacation they'd taken, and Mom would put her on speaker so I could hear every irritating detail. Then one random Tuesday evening in July, everything flipped upside down. I got home from work around 6:20 and spotted Kayla's Mercedes in the driveway, which immediately threw me off because it wasn't Sunday. When I stepped inside, there she was at the kitchen table with Mom, Dad, and Ethan, and the whole room felt tense and off. Laura, honey, sit down, Mom said, motioning to an empty chair. We need to talk. My stomach sank instantly because nothing good ever comes after those words. Dad cleared his throat and said Kayla and Ethan were dealing with some temporary housing issues. Apparently a busted pipe above their floor caused major flooding in their condo, and repairs would take at least 2 months. That's awful, I said, actually meaning it. Do you guys need help packing or anything? Dad cut me off and his voice sounded weird. They're going to stay here during the repairs, he said carefully. Just watch your rooms. It didn't register at first. What do you mean my rooms? Kayla gave this tight smile that didn't touch her eyes. We need the space, Laura. Ethan and I can't exactly squeeze into your tiny bedroom, and we both need office space for remote work. The guest room downstairs barely fits one bed. But those are my rooms, I blurted out. Where am I supposed to go? You can take the guest room or move out, Dad replied, still avoiding my eyes. We talked this through as a family, and this arrangement makes the most sense. Kayla and Ethan are married, and they need proper space. You're young and single. I looked to Mom, hoping she'd defend me, but she just twisted her wedding ring and kept staring at the table. Better if you're gone by tomorrow, Kayla chimed in lightly, like she was commenting on the weather. We want to get settled this weekend, and it'll be easier without your stuff in the way. Ethan finally spoke, thanking my parents and squeezing Kayla's hand like they were the ones who had been wronged. She leaned on him dramatically, playing the helpless victim. I felt like the wind had been knocked out of me. Tomorrow? You expect me gone by tomorrow? It would help, Dad admitted. But if you need a few days to pack, the guest room is open tonight. I looked around the table at these people who were supposed to love me. Kayla seemed smug. Ethan looked uncomfortable but useless. Mom looked guilty. Dad was clearly done discussing it. Something inside me just broke. Fine. Fine. Mom actually looked shocked. Fine. I'll be out by tomorrow evening. I pushed my chair back and stood, the scrape echoing sharply, then headed upstairs to start packing. My hands shook with anger and hurt as I called my best friend, Megan, who picked up on the second ring. Meg, I need a huge favor, I said, my voice unsteady. Can I crash on your couch for a bit? Of course, she said immediately. What happened? I told her everything while stuffing clothes into trash bags. Megan had never liked Kayla. After meeting her a couple times, she once said Kayla acted like acknowledging me was some sort of charity gesture. That absolute nightmare, Megan muttered when I finished. Anyway, listen. My lease is up in 3 weeks, and my landlord isn't renewing because he's selling the building. I was actually planning to ask if you wanted to look for a 2-bedroom with me. Seriously? Yeah. Weird timing but perfect timing. Come here and we'll hunt for a place together. By midnight I had most of my essentials packed. I didn't sleep at all. I just kept working, fueled by anger and disbelief. I boxed up my computer gear, my books, my clothing, anything that was mine. The furniture stayed since it had all been there since I was a kid, but I took every personal thing that mattered. Around 7 the next morning, Kayla appeared in my doorway wearing designer pajamas and holding a mug of coffee, looking way too satisfied. "You're actually leaving?" she asked. "You told me to be out by tomorrow." "It's tomorrow. I didn't think you'd really do it." She sipped her coffee. "I figured you'd sulk in the guest room for a while. Why would I stay somewhere I'm clearly not wanted?" She shrugged like it was obvious. "Don't be dramatic. You're young and overreacting. You'll appreciate this one day. This'll push you to grow up. Get your own place, be independent." I paused my packing and looked straight at her. "Is that what you tell yourself? That you're helping me by kicking me out of my home? It's not your home, Laura. It's Mom and Dad's. You're an adult still living with your parents. Honestly, it's pretty pathetic." The casual cruelty in her voice knocked the breath out of me. This was my sister, the same girl who taught me to ride a bike, who shared a bathroom with me for nearly 2 decades. I wondered where that person had gone. "I hope the extra square footage is worth it," I said quietly, then went back to packing. She walked away without saying anything else. By 5 that evening, Megan showed up with her boyfriend's pickup truck. Dad helped us load everything, keeping his expression impossible to read. Mom cried, but she never asked me to stay. Kayla and Ethan were out grabbing lunch, and managed to miss my entire exit like it was perfectly timed. As we drove off, I looked back at the house I'd grown up in. It didn't feel like mine anymore. Megan's apartment was tiny but cozy, and over the next 3 weeks we hunted for a place together while I tried to patch up my pride. I took on extra freelance design jobs at night to bump up my income. The way my family pushed me out still burned, but it also lit something in me. I wanted to prove I could stand on my own. Eventually we found a decent 2-bedroom about 20 minutes from my office. The rent made my eyes water, but splitting it made it doable. I'd have to be strict with my budget, and my loan progress would slow a bit, but at least I'd have independence. And honestly, my dignity felt even more important. We moved in on August 15th. I posted one photo on Instagram of our empty living room with the caption "New Beginnings," tagging Megan. I didn't say a word about my family. I didn't have to. The new place felt like a clean breath of air. That first weekend, Megan and I arranged the secondhand furniture we'd scavenged from thrift stores and Facebook Marketplace. Nothing matched, but it was all ours. We painted an accent wall in this rich teal shade. And I set up my design gear in my bedroom with a kind of careful appreciation that felt healing. Work quickly became my safe haven. During a weekly check-in, my boss Karen studied me and said I seemed different, more focused. "Whatever you're doing, keep it up," she told me. I'd been showing up early, staying late, pouring myself into every assignment. The logo redesign I'd been stuck on for ages suddenly snapped into place, and I churned out 3 full mock-ups in one afternoon, each one better than anything I'd made in months. Karen was impressed enough to hand me a major client, a local restaurant chain wanting a full rebrand. "This is a big shot for you," she said, sliding the brief over. "They actually asked for you after seeing your work on the Meridian Coffee project." My chest swelled with pride. This was real validation, earned, not handed to me out of pity or because I shared DNA with someone. I dove into the restaurant project with everything I had. Megan noticed the shift too. "You're like a whole new person," she said one night as we ate takeout on our mismatched couch. "You smile more. You feel lighter." I think I was suffocating there, I admitted. I didn't realize just how much until I left. Every family dinner felt like a stage performance. Every talk was just waiting for Kayla to call so everyone could gush about her successes. I was just background noise. "You were never background noise to me," Megan said firmly. "And look at you now, crushing it at work, paying your own bills, living your life. Your parents are going to regret how they treated you." I wasn't sure about that, but it meant something to hear it. What I did know was that I was finally building a life that felt like mine. The loan payments still hurt, and sometimes I had to get creative with late-month meals, but every struggle felt earned and honest. I started going to the gym near our place, nothing wild, just something to clear my mind during the evenings. That's where I met a woman named Rachel in a spin class. She worked in HR at a tech company downtown. We grabbed coffee one Saturday, and she mentioned they needed a contract designer for some internal projects. Nothing glamorous, she warned, employee manuals, training slides, that sort of thing. But the pay is solid and consistent. I sent her my portfolio that afternoon, and by Monday I had a contract offer. The extra income meant I could boost my loan payments and even start saving. For the first time since graduating, I felt like I was actually moving forward instead of barely staying afloat. 3 weeks after moving in, I finally opened the last box, the one I'd shoved into the back of my closet labeled Memories. Inside were old photo albums, birthday cards, dried flowers from my college graduation. All these little pieces of a family that used to feel whole. I found a photo from Kayla's wedding 4 years earlier. We were in the bridal suite, her glowing in her white dress, me in the emerald bridesmaid gown she'd picked. We had our arms around each other, laughing at something the photographer said. She looked radiant. I looked genuinely happy. What happened to those girls? When did we stop being sisters and turn into rivals in a competition I never realized was happening? I slid the picture back into the box and closed it. Some things just didn't have clean explanations. My phone buzzed with a text from a number I didn't recognize. "Hey Laura, it's Ethan. Can we talk?" I stared at the screen for a long moment before writing back. About what? About what happened? About Kayla. I think you should know a few things. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet him for coffee the next day. He picked a spot halfway between us, kind of neutral ground. When he showed up, he looked exhausted, less polished than usual. We ordered drinks, sat in a corner booth, and let the silence stretch until the coffee arrived. "I didn't know she planned to do that," he finally said. "Kicking you out. She told me your dad had already talked with you, and that you'd agreed to take the guest room temporarily. That's not how it went." "I know that now," he said, running a hand through his hair. "Kayla has this way of framing things so her version sounds like the only reasonable choice. By the time I understood what actually happened, you were already gone and we were settled in. So why are you telling me this?" "'Cause I feel guilty. I should have questioned things more. I should have pushed to hear it straight from you instead of taking her word for it. But Kayla was stressing out over the condo disaster, and I wanted to make things easier for her. That's what everyone does, bend life around Kayla. Smooth the path for Kayla. Shield Kayla. And the rest of us are expected to just suck it up." He nodded slowly. "Your parents do that constantly, don't they? Put her feelings first. Since we were little, she was the brilliant one, the accomplished one. I was just the younger sister who could never quite hit the marks she set." My voice came out sharper than I meant it to. "For whatever it's worth, I think she's jealous of you," he said. I almost laughed out loud. "Jealous of what? I'm drowning in student loans, scraping by every month. She has everything. She has things," he corrected gently. "You have something she never has. You get to fail without the world collapsing on you. You get to figure yourself out without disappointing anyone. Kayla's been performing since she was 5. Perfect grades, perfect resume, perfect marriage. She doesn't know how to simply exist. She thinks she has to be extraordinary all the time or she's nothing. That doesn't excuse what she did." "No, it doesn't," he agreed. "I'm not trying to justify it. I'm just trying to give you some perspective." He took a sip of his coffee. "She talks about you more than you think. Usually after a few glasses of wine she'll say things like, 'Laura doesn't care what people think,' or 'Laura just follows what makes her happy.' It comes out like resentment, but underneath it, I swear there's admiration." "That's a weird way to show admiration." "Yeah," he said with a sad sort of smile. "Emotions aren't exactly her strong suit. She turns everything into a competition because it's the only lens she knows. And when you were still living at home at 24, comfortable content, while she was overwhelmed trying to keep her perfect life polished, I think something inside her just snapped." We sat quietly for a moment. My mind drifted to the sister I used to know, the one who taught me to braid hair and snuck extra cookies to me when mom wasn't around. Somewhere along the line that girl faded away, replaced by someone harder, someone I barely recognized. "Thanks for telling me all of this," I finally said. "But I don't think it changes anything." He nodded. "I figured it wouldn't. I just wanted you to know you're not imagining things. What she did was cruel and you didn't deserve any of it." He rose from the booth. "Take care of yourself, Laura." After he left, I sat there for almost an hour, letting everything settle. Understanding someone's reasons doesn't mean you forgive their choices. Maybe Kayla was buckling under the weight of her own expectations, but she opted to drag me down with her instead of asking for help. The fallout hit 3 days later. My phone rang at 9 that night, Mom. I almost ignored it, but curiosity won. Laura, honey, we need to talk. I'm in the middle of unpacking. Can it wait? This is important. Her voice sounded tight. Have you shared any private information about the family? I frowned. What are you talking about? Your father's business. Anything about his finances? My dad owned a small but thriving construction company, something he built from scratch over 30 years. I don't know anything about his finances beyond what he casually mentions at dinner. Why? Kayla got a call today from a journalist. Someone claiming they had information about tax issues with our company. They suggested a family member was the source. My heart thudded hard. And you think that was me? Mom, seriously? You were very upset when you left. I was hurt, Mom. Not vindictive. And I'd never do something like that. Not over something as petty as being asked to move out. I was furious. For that matter, are Dad's taxes even an issue? She hesitated a second too long. Of course not. But you're not sure, I said quietly. Your father handles all of that. I trust him. Then why call me? Kayla insists it had to be you. She said you're the only one angry enough to try something spiteful. I laughed, but it sounded rough even to me. Kayla would know plenty about spite. But I'm not her. I didn't talk to any journalist. I don't even know any journalists. If you remember anything, let me know, Mom. I have work early. I hung up before she could add anything. Megan came out of her room with raised eyebrows. Let me guess, your charming family again? I told her about the strange call, and her expression shifted from confusion to something almost amused. What? I asked. Nothing. Just karma's wild sometimes. Meg, do you know something? She held up both hands. I know nothing about journalists or tax issues, but I do know public records exist for a reason, and occasionally the universe gives certain people a reality check. I narrowed my eyes. Megan, I'm just saying you weren't the only person who thought your sister went too far. Folks talk. Things happen. Now do you want pizza? I let it go. Whatever storm was brewing, I truly wasn't part of it. The real chaos hit 5 days later. I was at work when my phone lit up nonstop. First Megan, turn on the local news. Then a number I didn't have saved. Then another. Then my phone actually rang. Kayla. I stepped outside to answer. What's happening? I asked. What did you do? Her voice was frantic, cracking. What the hell did you do, Laura? I'm literally at work and I have no clue what you're talking about. The news is running a story about Dad's company. About tax evasion and misclassified employees and unreported income. They're saying someone gave them documents. Was it you? No. Like I already told Mom. You're lying. You have to be lying. Who else would do this? Kayla, I said firmly, I know nothing about Dad's business finances. I never have. I never had access to any documents of his, period. You lived in that house for 2 years, she insisted. You could have slipped into his office, snapped photos, anything. I didn't, I said. Why won't you believe me? Because you're the only one who'd want to hurt this family. Her accusation hit harder than I expected. I'm the one hurting the family? Seriously? Ever since we asked you to move out, asked? I cut her off. You didn't ask, Kayla. You demanded. You shoved me out of my home with less than a day's notice and actually smiled while doing it. Oh, grow up. You were freeloading. I was trying to survive student loans, working full-time, helping around the house, doing everything I could to get on my feet. And you swept in and decided my existence was inconvenient. This isn't about that, she snapped. Then what is it about? Because from where I'm standing, the only person who's hurt this family lately is you. You barged in, pushed me aside, and now you're scrambling to pin your dad's problems on someone else. But it's not me. Silence stretched on her end. Then in a tiny, almost childlike voice, if it wasn't you, then who? I don't know. Maybe the universe finally decided to give you exactly what you've earned. I hung up. My hands were shaking. I checked the local news site, and the headline made my stomach twist. Construction company under investigation for tax fraud. The article wasn't vague or speculative, it was precise. Specific years, specific sums, specific methods of hiding income. Anonymous family sources. Documentation from a whistleblower. Someone had turned things over. Someone with knowledge. But it wasn't me. My phone rang again. Dad. I answered with dread. Laura and Pierce, you tell me the truth right now. Did you have anything to do with this? His voice was cold and stern, the same tone he used when I messed up as a kid, and it immediately made me feel small. No, Dad. I swear I didn't. This could ruin everything I've built, everything I've worked for. If you're upset about moving out, don't drag this into it. I didn't even know there were issues with your taxes. He was silent for a moment. You really didn't know? Know what? Another pause. Nothing. If you're telling the truth, we'll figure out who did it. Is the article right? I asked quietly. He hung up without answering. The story swallowed the local news cycle for the next week. The IRS announced a formal audit. Pierce Construction's contracts were frozen during the investigation. Dad had to hire legal help. Word was that the stress was making him sick, though at this point, no one in my family contacted me for anything but suspicion. I tried to keep to my routine at work, but I could feel the whispers. My last name matched the one plastered across headlines, and a few coworkers suddenly acted weirdly cautious, like scandal might rub off. On Wednesday, my boss Karen called me into her office. My stomach knotted. Was I about to lose everything because of my father's choices? Close the door, she said. Her face unreadable. I did as she asked and sat down, bracing myself. I've seen the news, she said gently, about your dad's company. I'm not involved in any of it, I blurted. I'm not even living at home anymore. I don't know anything about his books. She lifted a hand. Laura, breathe. I'm not firing you. I'm checking on you. Relief washed through me so fast I almost sagged. I'm managing, I said. You sure? Need time off? Fewer hours? Actually, I need the opposite. I need to stay busy. Work is the only thing keeping me steady. Karen nodded. All right. But my door's open. And for what it's worth, I know your character. Your father's situation doesn't reflect on you. I walked out of her office feeling grateful and exhausted. At least someone could see me as my own person. That evening, Megan came home with wine and Thai takeout. Emergency rations, she announced. We're having a your family is ridiculous night. Shouldn't we be saving money? I said, already reaching for the bottle. Some disasters demand red wine and pad thai, she declared. We sat on the couch and dug in. So how are you really doing? Honestly, I feel like I'm watching a train crash in slow motion. I don't want to watch, but I can't look away. Dad built that company from scratch. Whatever happens, that's his life's work gone. And Mom's stuck in the crossfire. Do you feel bad for them? She asked. I thought for a long moment. I feel bad for Mom. She didn't know anything about the business side. Dad kept all that separate. Now she's drowning in consequences she never asked for. I took another sip. Dad, though, I don't know. He made his decisions with the company and with me. And Kayla? Megan asked. Kayla made her bed. She can lie in it. But even as I said the words, doubt slipped in. My sister had always pushed herself to perfection. Always reaching, always performing. Had that pressure finally cracked her? Or had there always been a mean streak I'd been too close to recognize? My phone buzzed. Another unknown number. I'd had dozens that week. Probably more reporters sniffing around. I sent it to voicemail. You should change your number, Megan said. Probably, but updating everything sounds exhausting. The voicemail notification popped up. Against my better judgment, I hit play on speaker. Laura, it's Aunt Carol, my dad's sister. Someone I hadn't heard from in over a year. I saw the news. Honey, I just want you to know I don't believe for a second that you had anything to do with this. Your father called me earlier. He's upset, confused. He's scared, Laura. I know things are messy right now, but he's still your dad. Maybe consider reaching out, she'd said. Just think about it. Love you, sweetheart. I deleted the message without replying. Megan glanced over from the couch and said my aunt sounded nice. She is, I told her, but she doesn't understand what really went down. No one does except the people who were in that kitchen when Kayla shoved me out of my own home. I poured more wine and sighed. Everyone wants me to be the bigger person, to let it all go. But why is it always on me to absorb everyone else's bad behavior? It's not, Megan said firmly. You don't owe anybody forgiveness, especially not on their schedule. We picked at our Thai food and watched some dumb reality show, but my mind kept drifting back to that voicemail. Dad was scared. A part of me, The little girl who'd followed him around job sites in the summer and beamed when he let me look at blueprints, wanted to call him, wanted to fix it. But the woman I'd become, the one who'd been tossed aside like clutter, said nothing. The next morning I woke to 17 missed calls from Mom, all between 6 and 8 a.m. No voicemail, just relentless calls. My heart lurched as I dialed her back. Something was seriously wrong. "Laura," she cried, her voice thick and frantic. "Thank God, why didn't you answer?" "Mom, I was asleep." "What's going on?" "It's your father. He had a heart attack last night. He's in the hospital. They think it was caused by stress." The whole room seemed to tilt. "Is he?" "He's stable," she said quickly. "They got him in time. But the doctor said if this stress keeps up." Her voice cracked into full sobbing. "I'm so sorry," I whispered, and I meant it. Whatever mistakes he'd made, I didn't want my father dead. "Will you come to the hospital? Kayla's here, but she's falling apart. I need you, Laura. Please." Every instinct told me to protect myself and say no, but instead I heard myself say, "I'll be there in half an hour." Megan grabbed her keys and insisted on driving me. "I'll wait in the cafeteria," she told me. "Text me if you need rescuing." The ICU waiting room felt cold and too bright. Mom spotted me and rushed over, hugging me so tightly I could barely breathe. She smelled like fear and disinfectant. "He's sleeping now," she said shakily. "They've stabilized him, but they want to keep him a few days. They're calling it acute coronary syndrome brought on by severe stress." "Where's Kayla?" I asked. Mom's expression went dark. "In the chapel. She's been in there an hour." I found Kayla exactly where Mom said, curled in a pew, head bowed. She looked smaller, deflated. "Kayla," I said quietly. She lifted her head, her face blotchy and raw from crying. "You came," she whispered. "Mom told me Dad had a heart attack." She swallowed hard. "I was yelling at him last night. We were fighting about the investigation and he grabbed his chest and went down. Called 911, but Laura, what if I did this? What if it's my fault?" I sat beside her but kept some distance. "The doctor said stress," I reminded her. "That's not just one argument. That's everything piling up." "Everything I caused," she said, her voice hollow. "Yeah," I replied, because sugarcoating it felt pointless. "Everything you caused." She recoiled like I'd hit her. "How can you be so cold? How can you be surprised? You dragged Dad's name through the mud, tried to pin it on me, and then acted like the victim. What did you expect, that we'd all pretend nothing happened? He's our father and he almost died. And who pushed him there, Kayla?" I stood up. "You wanted attention, wanted to hurt me, and now look what happened. Actions have consequences. Maybe it's time you learned that." I walked out of the chapel, hands shaking with adrenaline. Megan was waiting in the cafeteria, and one look at my face told her everything she needed. "Let's go home," she said immediately. But as we crossed the parking lot, I heard someone running behind us. A few days later, everything came crashing down again. It was Thursday around 8 at night, and I was editing photos for a freelance gig when someone pounded on the apartment door. Megan was at her boyfriend's place, so I was alone. I checked the peephole. "Kayla." She looked wrecked. Hair a mess, mascara smeared, eyes wide like she hadn't slept. Against all common sense, I opened the door. She shoved past me. "We need to talk." "You can't just barge in," I started to say, but she cut me off. "Ethan left me." That made me freeze. "What?" "He moved out this morning. Served me divorce papers this afternoon." Her voice wobbled and cracked. "He said he's done with the drama, done with the scandal, done being attached to a family in a federal investigation." Part of me wanted to feel triumphant, but mostly I was just tired. "I'm sorry," I said quietly. "Are you?" She snapped. "Because you got exactly what you wanted. You wanted me to feel what you felt. I didn't want this, Kayla. All I ever wanted was to matter." "Well, congratulations," she said bitterly. "You matter now. You ruined everything." She dropped onto my couch, sobbing. "Reporters won't leave me alone. I had to take a leave from work because my boss said I was becoming a liability. Ethan's lawyer is going for blood, trying to make sure I walk away with nothing. And Mom and Dad won't even look at me." "Why won't they look at you?" I asked. She went still. "What? You said Mom and Dad won't look at you. Why specifically you?" Her expression twisted. The sadness vanished, replaced by panic and something mean. "You don't know," she whispered. "Know what?" "You really don't know." She laughed. This strange broken sound. All this time you've been acting so innocent, but you're actually innocent. Kayla, what are you talking about? She looked at me with this wild, hunted expression. It was me. The whole room tilted sideways. You what? I managed to breathe. I'm the one who gave the information to the journalist. I just stared at her, frozen. I found Dad's real records last Christmas. I was looking for something in his office and found the files he doesn't show his accountant. And I realized he'd been hiding income for years, classifying actual employees as contractors, so he wouldn't have to pay proper taxes or insurance. It was all there, every bit of it. I couldn't even get words out. My own sister, my sister, had been the one to blow up our father's entire business. I took pictures of everything, she went on, her voice flat and almost robotic now. I told myself it was just insurance, you know? Something to hold on to in case I ever needed leverage. And then when Ethan and I had to move back in with Mom and Dad, and I saw you there still living like some carefree kid, still being doted on while I was drowning in expectations, I just got so furious. So you decided to frame me? I asked. I didn't frame you, she argued, though even she didn't sound convinced. I figured if I let the information slip, Dad would assume it was you. You'd already left angry. Fit too perfectly. He'd cut you off completely, and maybe he'd finally see me as the dependable daughter again. The loyal one. Kayla, that's completely unhinged. It was supposed to stay contained, she said, tears pooling. Just enough to scare Dad, push him to restructure, maybe even get him to lean on me to fix everything. I didn't think it would explode like this. I didn't think the IRS would actually get involved. I didn't think Ethan would walk out. She grabbed my arm. You have to help me. I yanked myself free. Help you? You tried to destroy my relationship with my parents. I'm your sister. You kicked me out of my home. I made a mistake, she cried. I was jealous, okay? I was jealous that you got to stay there, that Mom loved having you around. Dad never put pressure on you like he did on me. You got to be the one who stumbled and I had to be flawless, and I just snapped. Before I could respond, there was a knock at the door. I opened it to find Mom and Dad standing there, both looking like they'd aged 20 years. Dad's skin looked gray. Mom's eyes were swollen and red. We need to talk to both of you, Dad said, stepping inside without waiting. Kayla jumped to her feet, real panic flickering across her face. Mom shut the door quietly behind them. Please tell me Laura didn't do this, she begged. Tell me she's lying, Kayla. She's lying, Kayla blurted. Don't, Dad snapped, his voice sharp and cutting. We found the metadata on the files leaked to the press. Those photos came from your phone, Kayla. Your phone. Taken last December. Kayla's face drained of color. Brandon's attorney helped us look into it, Mom added. We needed answers, and the IP address that sent those files was traced to our home, specifically to the days you and Ethan were staying with us. She's lying, Kayla whispered again, but her voice was tiny now, desperate. She turned toward Mom. Mom, tell me she's lying. But she wasn't asking about me anymore. She was asking about the evidence. About being caught. Why, Dad asked, his voice breaking open. Why would you do this to me? To our family? I didn't mean, it wasn't supposed to. Kayla could barely piece words together. You tried to frame your sister, Mom said through tears. You forced her out of the house, wrecked your father's name, and you wanted us to believe Laura was responsible. Your own sister. She's always been your favorite, Kayla suddenly screamed. Both of you. Laura gets to screw up and you love her anyway. I have to be perfect and it's still never enough. That's not true, Dad said, but he didn't sound confident. More like he wished it were true. It is true, she insisted. You let her stay home for 2 years without breathing down her neck. When I was her age, you pushed me to get promoted, get married, buy property. Nothing I accomplished was enough. So you burned everything down? I asked quietly. Kayla turned to me, tears streaming. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Laura. I didn't think it'd go this far. I thought I could control it. You tried to make our parents hate me because you were jealous. That's not something you fix with an apology. I'm your sister, she sobbed. No, I said firmly. A sister doesn't do what you did. I don't know what you are to me now, but you're not my sister anymore. Mom let out a soft, pained sound. Laura, she made a terrible mistake, but she's still family. She's your family, not mine. Not after this. I turned to Dad. And for whatever it's worth, I really do hope the investigation doesn't destroy your company. I truly do. But I can't be part of this family anymore. Not after everything. Dad nodded slowly, looking more worn than I'd ever seen him. I understand, he said. Mr. Pierce, I replied, and the formal tone made him flinch. You sided with her when she kicked me out. That was your decision. I'm just finally accepting it. Laura. Mom whispered, but I cut her off. I need you all to leave. They stood there stunned, until Dad gently guided Mom to the door. Kayla stayed frozen. I said leave. You have to forgive me eventually, Kayla whispered. I'm your sister. That used to mean something, I told her. Past tense. You destroyed it. Now go or I'm calling the police. She left. They all did. I closed the door, locked it, then slid down to the floor. I thought I'd feel triumphant, redeemed, justified, but instead I just felt hollow. Megan came home an hour later and found me sitting exactly where she'd left me. Are you okay? She asked, sinking down beside me. My sister tried to frame me for blowing up our father's company. She admitted everything. My parents know. And somehow I'm still the one who feels guilty. That's because you're a good person, she said softly. And good people deserve better than what they put you through. Did you know? I asked. Did you find those records and leak them? Megan was quiet for a long time. I didn't leak anything, she said eventually. But I might have given a little encouragement to someone who was debating whether certain legal obligations outweigh family loyalty, hypothetically. Meg, your father committed real tax fraud, Laura. Not minor stuff. Actual fraud. He wasn't reporting income. He wasn't providing proper insurance for workers. People were getting hurt. Someone would have exposed it eventually. The universe just decided eventually was now. And your family? They kicked you out and blamed you for their own mess. They made their choices. You don't owe them anything. She was right. I knew she was right. But God, it still stung. The investigation dragged on for 3 months. Dad ended up pleading guilty to 3 counts of tax evasion, massive fines, community service, and a forced restructuring under federal supervision. He didn't serve time, but his reputation was gone. Kayla's divorce wrapped up in October. Ethan took everything, condo, savings, even her car. She had to move back with our parents, ironically into the same guest room they once offered me as a consolation prize. Mom called weekly for a while, begging me to attend family therapy. I refused. Some bridges are ash. Dad never called at all. Now it's been 6 months since that night everything came out. I'm still living with Megan. I got a promotion. My freelance work is thriving. I'm making real dents in my loans again. Then last week a letter showed up. No return address, but the handwriting was unmistakably Kayla's. I almost tossed it, but curiosity won. Inside was a single handwritten page. Laura, I doubt you'll read this. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but you were right. I wasn't your sister when I did those things. I was jealous, insecure, and hurting everyone around me because I couldn't face my own failures. Ethan leaving was the best thing that ever happened to me because it forced me to see what I'd become. I'm in therapy, actual therapy, and I'm trying to understand myself. I'm trying to become someone who could someday earn the right to be your sister again. I don't expect a reply. You deserve better. And I'm sorry I didn't see that before I broke everything. Love, Kayla. I read it 3 times. Then I put it in my desk drawer. Maybe someday I'll answer. Maybe someday the hurt will fade enough to let me consider some small version of reconciliation. But today isn't that day. Today I'm focused on my life. My apartment, my work, my friends who actually love me. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's simply living well in spite of everything that tried to break you. And I'm living better now than I ever did in that house that stopped being home the second my sister smiled at me and told me I'd better be gone by tomorrow.